Today I want to give you an overview of the book of Acts in around 5 minutes or less. That's coming up next on The Beat. Hey everyone, my name is Parr. Thank you all so much for tuning into The Beat. If this is your first time here on this channel, we answer frequently asked questions about the faith. We talk about dating and relationships from a Christian perspective, and we do book reviews similar to this one. So if you're new here, consider subscribing. And so today is time for another book review, and we have chosen the book of Acts. And so what I want to do today is I want to start off by talking about the background to the book of Acts. Okay, so first and foremost, the book of Acts was written by Luke, who also happened to be a physician. So as you know, Luke wrote the Gospel of Luke, but also if you look at Luke 1:1 and Acts 1:1, you will see that both of them are addressed to someone named Theophilus, which means lover of God. And so we can see that Acts is just simply more of a continuation of what he began to write about in the book of Luke. So if Luke was about what Jesus began to do and teach on the earth, then the book of Acts is all about the continuation of Jesus' work as he works through the church. Interestingly enough, the outline to the entire book of Acts can be found in chapter 1, verse 8, which says, "But you shall receive power when the Holy Spirit has come upon you, and you will be my witnesses, first in Jerusalem, and then Judea, then Samaria, and then even to the remotest parts of the earth." And so that is the outline to the book of Acts right there. The book of Acts is all about how the Holy Spirit took the gospel from a small city in Jerusalem and it spread all the way and transferred to the large city of Rome. The key lesson that I believe we can learn in the book of Acts is that this book demonstrates what God can do through individuals and churches who are first and foremost committed to Him, but also allow themselves to be fully empowered by the Holy Spirit. Okay, so let's break the book of Acts up into a 2-act play. So Act 1 is going to be Peter's ministry, and that's going to go from 1:1 all the way through Acts 12:24. And then the second part, or the second act of Acts, is going to be Paul's ministry, which extends from Acts chapter 12, verse 25, all the way through chapter 28, verse 31. Okay, so the first 6 chapters or so, the church was limited primarily to the city of Jerusalem, and the key figure that was doing most of the speaking and teaching was the Apostle Peter. So if you look at Acts chapter 2, Acts chapter 3, Acts chapter 4, you see him preaching these sermons primarily directed to Jewish people, trying to urge them and convince them that, you know what, this Jesus, who you just crucified and put on the cross, he indeed was the Messiah that the Old Testament had promised to come. So as a result of Peter's preaching, over time, many people began to convert from Judaism over to Christianity, and this time was also characterized by all sorts of miracles, signs, and wonders, which simply served to demonstrate that God's hand and God's power was working through the church and working through this newfound religion called Christianity. But then in chapter 8, something ended up happening. It wasn't safe anymore to be a Christian in Jerusalem, so an opposition broke out. And as a result, all the Christians just scattered throughout all the different cities surrounding them, which actually served to work out good. Because if you remember the outline of the book, Acts chapter 1, it says that, you know what, I want you to be my witnesses, not just in Jerusalem, but to the other cities as well. And so God used this opposition in Jerusalem to push the people outside of their comfort zone. Thus, the gospel began to spread. So Peter, along with another guy named Philip, began to slowly advance and spread the gospel to places like Samaria, Caesarea, Joppa, and also Antioch. But towards the end of Peter's ministry in the book of Acts, there's this other guy that starts to take center stage. It is the Apostle Paul, who used to be a persecutor of Christians, persecutor of the church, and now he gets saved in Acts chapter 9, and he now is getting ready to be the main spokesman to primarily the Gentiles. So now we're in the second act of the book of Acts, which goes from chapter 12:25 through 28:31. And so now the Apostle Paul is the main primary figure that is doing most of the preaching and whatnot. And so the first several chapters are characterized by him going on these 3 missionary journeys or missionary trips, if you will. And essentially what Paul is doing, he's basically taking a team of people and he's traveling and he's planting churches basically, and he's pastoring these churches. And so he plants them and then he stays there for a while and kind of develops their leadership and whatnot, teaches them good biblical doctrine. Then he leaves and goes to another city and does the same thing. And what he does is he communicates with them through letters, because he can't be there all the time. So he's pastoring these churches through letters, and many of these letters are the same letters that we have right now that make up the majority of the New Testament. Finally, the book of Acts ends with Paul and his men trying to take the gospel to the city of Rome, but as they are trying to go there, they experience shipwreck. And then finally, when they get there, the Apostle Paul is imprisoned and put on house arrest simply for preaching the gospel. And that is basically how the book of Acts ends. So I hope you all are enjoying these little snippets, these little overviews of certain books of the Bible. Question of the day: what are some other books in the Bible that you would like for me to do an overview of? Leave that in the comment section below so that I can continue to create videos that you want to see. If you like this video, hit the like button. Don't forget to share this with your friends. Be sure and subscribe. Check out some of the other videos on this channel while you're here. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you next time on The Beat.